We're going to get started here. Good morning, and thank you for joining us for the Kent County Board of Commissioners Finance Committee meeting. We'll call to order, and we'll start with public comment. If there's anyone here from the public that wishes to comment. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion for the consent agenda? Moved by Commissioner Oliver King, supported by Commissioner Halstead. Are there any questions or comments on this item? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That passes. That will take us to our agenda items. We'll start with agenda item A from equalization, the annual report. Do you want to say anything
Sure.
about it before we?
Yes. Megan Hoos, our equalization director, is prepped to give you the annual report. Equalization is a function that came to us via the 1963 Michigan Constitution as the state sought to equalize property values among jurisdictions. It's interesting that up until that point, people or different jurisdictions could tax based on different percentages. So 50% was not the standard in the state up until 1960.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. So like Al said, I'm Megan Van Hoos. I'm the Director of Equalization, and this is our annual report. Our mission in equalization is to provide a fair system of property assessment and taxation, and to provide professional mapping services for all cities and townships in Kent County. I put an org chart up here just so you could kind of see the makeup of our department. That's my smiling face on top. A couple of my staff members joined me today so they could listen to this report. We're made up of 2 divisions. There's 14 people in our department, including myself. We have the property appraisal division, and then we also have property description and mapping. 5 people on each side. We also have a deputy director, an equalization supervisor, and an equalization assistant. So as Al was saying, this came along, back in the 60s, right? So equalization can be a bit tough to explain, and it definitely can be a bit difficult to understand. If any of you have ever had a casual conversation with an assessor, you may experience that we can talk about it literally all day. So I'm going to give you the high points here this morning. Assessment administration and equalization are governed by the General Property Tax Act with guidance from the State Tax Commission. The majority of what we do is dictated by statute. But in addition to our statutory duties, we also provide mapping services and we administer the remonumentation program. At Kent County, we strive to not just to comply with our statutory responsibilities, but to execute them with the highest level of proficiency and efficiency. Appraising property is complicated, and although we use statistical analysis and verified market information, values are fluid in the same way that I think that doctors practice medicine, assessors provide an opinion on value. So when you have 30 units of government and you have 28 local unit assessors, because some of them do more than one unit, you're going to end up with a lot of differing values, opinions, and techniques. So county equalization aims to smooth out those differences of property assessments so that assessments are uniform whether your property is located in Spencer Township or the Village of Sparta or the City of Grand Rapids, as Al was alluding to when he introduced. Whoa, I'm sorry. Let's go back. Excuse me for 1 second. Okay. We also offer guidance to our local unit assessors. We develop and distribute multiple publications to the local unit assessors on costs, market data, updated guidance, changes in statute, and educational opportunities that are available to them. The Property Appraisal Division focuses on 3 primary objectives. They ensure uniform taxation of real and tangible personal property. They ensure equitable distribution of the countywide tax burden, and they annually project the true cash value of all classes of property. To accomplish this, we annually appraise between 12 and 15% of the agricultural, commercial, industrial, and developmental classes. Our residential property is appraised using a sales study, which analyzes arm's length transactions, and those transactions are sales transactions that occur between a buyer and a seller that's willing and informed. So not your trusts or ladybird deeds, anything like that. In 2024, we analyzed approximately 7,600 sales for this market analysis, which is about 4% of the residential parcels in Kent County. We have several tools that we use to accomplish our task of appraising over 2,000 parcels a year. Each parcel we appraise requires an on-site visit. This includes an exterior photos of all buildings and a detailed sketch. Several years ago, we purchased software that allows the appraisers to access and collect parcel data in the field using an iPad. This software keeps the data organized and displayed in a dashboard format so we can track progress throughout the year. It also directly integrates with BSNA software, which is our industry software for property appraisal. Up on the screen, you can see at the very bottom, there's a dashboard that comes right out of our Pivot Point software. Just above that, to the left-hand side, that's a single property card on an iPad. So the appraiser can see property details, you can see where they've taken external photos, and then just to the right of that, you'll see a detailed property sketch. So that occurs on every single property that we visit every single year. We also utilize maps to visualize data points such as land values. At the top right, you can see a land value map that's using color coding to show inconsistencies in land values in that certain area. These land value maps are created by our very own property description and mapping team, and they help us easily identify inconsistencies so that we can clear those up and make sure that we're assessing in a uniform manner, whether it's on one street or corridor, across the township, or across the county. On the top left, you can see just a quick snippet of a chart we use to track cost multipliers that are used to project the true cash value and make sure that that projection of true cash value is uniform across the county. Another great tool we have available here is pictometry. Pictometry is now EagleView, which is something that you might hear more than pictometry anymore. So we have a contract with EagleView for aerial flights. They do these oblique images every 3 years. Our next flight will be in 2026. Last flight was in 2023. You can see on the far left, your left of the screen there, that the zoomed in photo there, that's us here at the county. So the zoomed out photo is relatively zoomed out, but you can get pretty good detail on there. And the zoomed in photo will actually allow you to measure heights and widths of buildings and kind of get a full 360 view of every building in our county. Downtown and in some of the more populated areas, we have a higher resolution flight, so you could actually at times see conditions of buildings without having to go out and physically inspect. But as you can imagine, it's hard for an appraiser to measure the height of a large building downtown, or something like the DeVos Place. If you're trying to get a width on that, it can be challenging. So the aerial views are great for this. On the right-hand side, that's ChangeFinder. You can see that one of those houses on there is highlighted in red. And that's identifying the changes that have happened to that property since the flight in 2020 to the flight in 2023. So it gives us an opportunity to quickly scan and look over and see, was a building permit missed? Was a house torn down that we didn't catch and is still on our assessment roll? And making sure that we're addressing uniformity and equity across the county. So the property description and mapping team is primarily responsible for providing professional mapping services for all cities and townships within Kent County. This includes boundary line adjustments, land divisions and combinations. We hover right around 6,000 property tax descriptions per year. Some years are higher than others, depending on what's going on in development, market rates, interest rates. In addition to mapping and maintaining property boundaries, the PDM is what we call in property description and mapping staff. The PDM staff maintains inventory of our county-owned property, and they also inspect, keep records on, and report on farmland preservation properties. They track the type of crop, yield of crop per acre, and where the crops are actually going after they're harvested. Equalization staff, both the appraisal and mapping staff, process every real property deed that is recorded at the Register of Deeds. We average around 25,000 deeds per year, which means that many of these deeds, not all 25,000, many of these deeds are certified by our property description and mapping team, meaning that they review the legal descriptions to make sure that a piece of property that's transferred between two people, the legal description matches the description on the assessment roll and matches the land that's actually sitting there. So that reduces property disputes between buyer and seller at a later date, and ensures that no single parcel is subject to double taxation. This is not a service that all counties provide, and it really helps our taxpayers. Property description and mapping also provides regular expertise and customer service to industry professionals such as realtors, appraisers, attorneys, environmental firms, developers, and the list goes on and on. Another responsibility of equalization is to preserve the public survey monuments and the public land survey system. This is done through the remonumentation program, which we do in partnership with the City of Grand Rapids and the Kent County Remonumentation Peer Review Group. a widely confused part of this is the funding. So funding for the service comes from state grants. And the state grants are funded through the document recording fee that is collected at the Register of Deeds. A portion of this document recording fee is then allocated out to the remonumentation program and then comes back to the counties who opt in, which is most of us, to administer this program. So funding is always, the amount of monuments that we reestablish, repair, inspect depends on the funding. So the number of monuments you see on your screen that we've worked on over the years is simply dependent on funding. I did get some cheers when I came in here this morning. Last year when I gave this report, I was asked about, my predecessor liked to bring props. So I brought a prop for you today. So this is an actual survey monument, right? It's very big, it's quite heavy. The tops of these come off. And this one actually, says Kent County Monument. And what I also found, I learned this from John Wiles. So John Wiles is the City of Grand Rapids surveyor who does this program for us. The contract, we administer the grant funds, and then the contract goes over to the City of Grand Rapids, and that surveyor from the City of Grand Rapids, he works with the peer review group, and he manages this whole project as a professional. I certainly don't know surveying like that. So this actually comes apart at about right here. And he told me that the reason for this is because they get hit, right? So if road maintenance crews are out there, we don't have this happen quite as much because the road commission is very aware, and they've been working together with the City of Grand Rapids and understanding how not to hit these, how to identify them, and they've also kind of changed the way that they're laid out in roads so they're easier to see. But when they see them, or when they don't see them and they hit them, it just takes off that top 2/3 or so, or third or so of that post, and then that's all that they have to replace, and they can go back and find it. So there. I was going to bring John today as prop number 2, but he was unavailable. So equalization is complex and complicated, but we're only controlled by 2 statutory functions, which is apportionment and equalization. So in short, equalization is basically the end result of everything that we just went over today: uniform taxation, equitable distribution of the tax burden, and annual projection of true cash value. We work all year round to determine the true cash value of each class of property in each local unit of government to ensure that each class of property in each local unit of government is assessed at 50% of true cash value, or if you'd rather call it market value, so what it's worth on the open market. When we then compile all of these values into one final county equalization report, which I present to the Board of Commissioners annually, and this year that'll be on April 24th, so I'll see you in a few weeks again. The second statutory function is apportionment. It's our job in county equalization to ensure that the requested millages from each taxing authority are lawful and comply with the provisions of the Michigan Constitution. We calculate the millage reduction fraction, or the Headley rollback. We provide that back to each taxing authority. They go then, do their thing, get their approvals, bring all that data back to us, and then we compile that into one final report called the apportionment report, and that lists all the millages that are being collected, where the money, how much money is being collected, where that money is going, how it's being spread across the county. That report gets brought to you in October, so I'll see you again then. Significant accomplishments. So we had a very challenging year in equalization, and with staffing mostly. We have 14 people on staff, and in the last 2 years, we've had 40% of that staff turnover. So this is all but one was due to retirement, which is a great sign for the county and for our department. The average tenure is about 15 years in our department. Last year, or earlier this year, we lost one staff person who had been here for 36 years, and the other several that retired had been here for over 20. So we have lost decades of institutional knowledge over the last couple of years, including myself. The former director had been here for over 20 years, and then I came in and then lost another 40% of my staff. So I consider that to be a significant accomplishment for us, that basically we were able to complete the equalization cycle. We were able to meet all our mandated functions. We earned near a perfect audit result for our 2024-2025 cycle. So we get audited every year by the State Tax Commission, and they give us a detailed report on our work product. We submit everything, the nuts and bolts, the spreadsheets, everything that we've done for the year goes up to the State Tax Commission, and they have to sign off on that. So we did great. we were able to hire 4 of the 5 people, so one is not on board yet, so we won't talk about that person, but 4 of the 5 people, we hired great professionals. A couple of them are in the room today, and every single person on staff had to step up, and they did step up without complaint, including our newest people, to get going and get this job done with fewer people on staff. Because not only are we accountable to our taxpayers, to administration, to the Board of Commissioners, but we're also accountable to the State Tax Commission, and those are immovable deadlines that we have to meet. So very, very proud of our staff for getting us all the way to the finish line this year, which is what we'll be presenting to you here shortly in April. I went ahead, sorry, I'm not the best at the PowerPoint part. So I also listed equalization cycle, which I just hit on, hitting all of those deadlines with a near perfect score. Professional development and training. This is something that I'm very, very passionate about. I think if we're not continuing to educate and learn, we are becoming stagnant, we're not growing, and we need to stay up to date with what's going on in property assessment and taxation. So I work very hard to make sure that our staff shares that passion, or at least hears it from me, but then also to make sure that education is available to them. We're members of our local association, our state association, and our international association. We've sent many of our staff to free classes, very inexpensive courses. We were also able to budget this year to send a couple of people to conferences. One person on staff got to go to the conference, the international conference, for the very first time. And we had that all funded through a scholarship opportunity. So every one of these associations has scholarship opportunities, so we apply for those to try to reduce the burden on our budget and get people out and about learning and networking with their peers. My greatest accomplishment would be, we have, the International Association is where we get, I would say, they are the leading authority on property assessment, tax policy, valuation standards, technical standards, but those classes are offered internationally. So that's Iowa, Idaho, Texas, Minnesota, right? And we hadn't had classes here in Michigan that were attainable for us. So to go to a class like that, for one person to attend a course like that, it's gonna cost like $3,500. And that's just not sustainable when we have a staff of 14 people. So about 5 years ago, I partnered with Matt Wolford, my predecessor, to bring those classes to Kent County. We developed a plan, we started hiring instructors, we found free places to put students, and we started generating income. So part of our professional development funds from our budget go into that program. We put $4,000 a year into it, but we get back about $17,000 worth of education and expenses are covered by partnering with this group. So that's been incredible. We've educated almost 200 students locally and nationally. No international students yet. And this year in May, we have another 60 people signed up for classes that we're hosting over at the Amway. Okay, so moving on to our transition to ArcGIS. Not a lot to say here other than it was very challenging. I'm not a mapper. I know that my mappers were struggling. If anybody has ever worked with ArcGIS, it's a complicated program. It's like a whole other language. ArcGIS went from ArcMap to ArcPro. Super complicated transition with zero training. The training opportunities were to hire consultants that were going to charge, $20,000 to train our staff. So they were left with modules, online modules, and I don't know about you, not the greatest way to learn. That can be very challenging to sit and watch somebody else do something on a screen. So they took the initiative, they dove right in, they didn't have a choice, they needed to learn it, and they did. So we have successfully transitioned to ArcPro for all of our appraisers and mapping professionals. Lastly, I want to highlight the collaboration as a significant accomplishment. We worked hard, very, very hard over the past year and a half of me being here to grow and build upon our relationships with the local unit assessors. I think this is vitally important. We are separate entities. We're kind of oversight, but we don't manage the local units, right? We're just the next step in the system. It's them, us, and the state. So we have separate functions, but it's incredibly important that we're working together, that we're communicating with each other, that we're using the same information, and that we're drawing somewhat similar conclusions and keeping things uniform. Because at the end of the day, our goal is uniform and equitable assessments across the county. So we want everyone to be receiving the same services and the same level of assessments no matter where they live in Kent County. So we've been working very hard on those relationships, and I think we are already realizing the benefits of a little bit more communication and collaboration with them. All right, looking ahead, we're just going to continue to increase our knowledge. We're constantly improving our techniques to ensure we're producing uniform, fair, and equitable assessments. We will continue to produce high quality work. We're always striving to be better and do better. We will continue We will continue our efforts to provide excellent customer service both internally and externally. always, always, always strengthening our relationships with the local unit assessors and the public. And lastly, as things settle down and our staff settles in, we're going to be looking for ways to innovate and improve our processes further. We have plans to better integrate our mapping with our appraisal services. Like you could see up there on the one slide that we were color coding maps to help the appraisers look at land values. We really want to take that much, much farther into the future and be integrating those two departments. We also plan to start using Power BI to improve our statistical analysis capabilities. With 200,000 parcels to deal with, it helps to have a little bit more robust system other than Microsoft Excel. And fortunately, with the generosity of the county with the training programs available to us, we're able to get trained on Power BI so that we can dive right in and use this program to the best of our abilities and hopefully to the best of its abilities. One big thing that you'll see in the future is BSNA, which is our industry software, is moving from a server-based platform to a cloud platform. That'll come as an expense to the county. It's not an optional one. That'll be coming up in the future capital improvement budget requests as they are just kind of phasing out of that server-based platform and moving into cloud only. There's been a few local units that have moved already. We're kind of waiting. We don't want to be on the very front edge of that, but we don't want to be, the last ones to the table either, and making sure that we're staying up to date. Okay, all of these efforts push towards greater efficiency as we strive to be good stewards of taxpayer money and do our job to the best of our abilities. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions on our equalization department? No? Okay. Seeing none, thank you so much for your
Okay.
presentation, and
All right.
we will reach out if we have any questions going forward.
Okay, please do.
Thank you. Okay, that will take us to item 4B on our agenda from Facilities Management, Consumers Energy Easement on Butterworth.
Action requested, approve granting a 10 by 15 foot easement to Consumers Energy at 2228 Butterworth Street Southwest, so consumers may add a guy wire to an existing pole, allowing development across the street. Summary, Consumers Energy has offered the county $500 for a 10 by 15 foot easement for a new guy wire at 2228 Butterworth Street Southwest, which will allow for development across the street. The Parks Department has reviewed the easement and its location as in support of granting the easement. County Legal has incorporated standard Kent County language into the easement agreement. Consumers Energy has offered $500 in compensation to the county for the new minor encumbrance.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner McLeod. Is there support? Support. Supported by Commissioner Halsted. Are there any questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The motion passes. We'll move on to item 4C from the Administrator's Office, funding support for West Michigan Sports Commission Winning Streak campaign.
Action requested, recommend to the Board of Commissioners to transfer and appropriate $358,000 to the FY 2025 Myers Sports Complex Expansion Special Projects Fund budget from the FY 2025 Undesignated Special Projects Fund budget to support the West Michigan Sports Commission's annual Winning Streak campaign. Summary, on December 1, 2022, the Kent County Commission voted to allocate $1 million in American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funds to the West Michigan Sports Commission. This funding supported the organization's $13.5 million Winning Streak campaign to expand and improve the Myers Sports Complex. The West Michigan Sports Commission broke ground in late 2024 on the Myers Sports Complex, which improves existing fields, adds a new championship softball field, adds 3 new flexible use diamond fields for youth and amateur baseball and softball, 20 pickleball courts, and new amenities for visiting families and athletes. These improvements will allow the Sports Commission to attract 200 more teams annually, leading to $1 million annually in new local spending. Kent County's allocation was used to install synthetic turf on the complex's existing championship baseball field. The West Michigan Sports Commission experienced cost overruns amounting to $358,000 for the championship baseball field synthetic turf project, primarily due to inflation that followed the COVID-19 pandemic. By allocating an additional $358,000 to the West Michigan Sports Commission, the organization will be one step closer to closing out the Winning Streak campaign and focus solely on completing the expansion of the Myers Sports Complex.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Halsted. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Green. Are there questions or comments on this item? Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. So I've been asking about this and just trying to understand how we are going to allocate 85% of the funding that was set aside in January for this. And I think it's a great cause. I think that, the Sports Commission could definitely use this to close out their campaign. My concern is that there are again, as I've mentioned when I've talked to Al and others, that it seems to be a discrepancy, I guess, in what I thought and other commissioners thought, that how this money would be allocated to all of the different agencies that might have overruns or might need additional funding. I appreciate the clarification that was provided, but it still is not really clarifying things for me in terms of how this agency is set to receive this amount of the allocation that was set aside when I'm not clear that there are not other agencies that also have overruns that need to, that would like to request funding from this pool. And so although I think, again, this is a great cause, if we were helping other agencies complete their campaigns, I mean, it could be, a lot more money that would need to be spent to be able to do that. And so I do think that it would be helpful to understand a bit more how we are validating using these funds like this, and as opposed to opening it up to others that might need additional funding to support their projects that we funded through the ARPA dollars. So I'm concerned about this. I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think that there are others that might also be wanting to ask for additional funds. So if I could get, again, just a little bit more clarification on if that opportunity will be opened up to some of our other funded agencies through the ARPA dollars, or if this is it, and we are not going to be able to allow other agencies to ask for additional funding.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just to clarify, when Commissioner McLeod referred to the 85%, that was of $417,227.92 that the board moved from unspent in a project, and that was mostly admin of ARPA dollars. The biggest chunk was about $200,000 that we were planning to spend on an accountant to help us administer the funding, and actually we hired Josh Spencer and saved all that money because he just kind of grabbed the bull by the horns and administered the project. So it was things like that that created the $417,227 and change. And the recommendation, the line that we're drawing is that the Sports Commission was created by the county, the CAA, and then Peter Secchia had raised money from the private sector for the other third to come up with the first 4 years of funding. The county put $200,000 in general fund money in for the first 4 years of the Sports Commission existence from 2007 to 2011. And then after that time, the county negotiated a higher percentage with Experience Grand Rapids of lodging tax excise money, with the understanding that that would be used to fund the West Michigan Sports Commission from there on out. The county has further involvement. The county actually sold the property to the Sports Commission that the Meyer Complex sits on for $400,000 in 2014. This was land the county had bought in 1974 to site a future landfill on. And they sold it to the Sports Commission for the 1974 value, which saved over $600,000 at the time. And then in 2018, the county board budgeted $400,000 in hotel motel tax money to repay the Sports Commission for their purchase of the property. And so the Sports Commission is kind of like a part of the county. The county created it. The Sports Commission is kind of part of the team of CAA. The intention is to put heads in beds. The intention is to create more hotel motel tax revenue. And that's exactly what this does. It really, of all the ARPA projects, not only is it the most closely held with Kent County, but it's also the one where we can measure revenue impact, where we really don't with the other projects. So basically, if the board does approve this, that would leave 59,227.92 of those funds, and the recommendation would just be that we use that for county projects. So that's the rationale, and the intent wasn't to open up a big process for $417,000.
So, in follow-up to that, thank you for that clarification. So I guess, I would ask again, are there any other agencies that ask for additional funding because of cost overruns?
We had one that was very tenacious up until about 8 months ago, and have not made any requests. And then we have another that called and asked, and we talked through it, and they decided they were not going to ask for more funds. That's it. And Josh is the one who actually accepts and reviews all those quarterly reports. So, Josh, if you had anything else to add, if not, that's fine. If you do, that's fine. But we haven't received any other requests, so, other than what I just mentioned.
And my last question, if I could just ask one last question, and has there been any outreach to agencies that you've been reviewing their quarterly reports to find out if they have need for additional funding to finish their projects that, again, were initially funded by us through ARPA dollars?
So I am the one that reviews those quarterly reports, and there's a lot of back and forth communication with all the recipients of the ARPA funding. If I asked all of them if, hey, do you need more funding, I'm sure I would get a resounding yes, sure, send the check. But I check it against what their project is, how they're advancing in their fundraising. A lot of them, they made assurances on, hey, if you give us this much, we're going to be able to leverage that to raise this. And I've helped them identify some other funding sources. So we didn't reach out, with this, hey, we have this pot of money. How are you doing? Do you need more? Partially, I think we talked about, it's just, you would have gotten, $10 million in requests again for, and so we felt, talking about it, that the close partnership, and this is the one where they did come back, the portion that had cost overruns was the portion the county supported. So it was kind of unique in that way. But yeah, I think that's kind of what the process went through. Yeah.
Did you have any additional? Did you? Commissioner Sparks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have concerns with this because I feel that we'll have some scrutiny behind it. It does not seem like it's an equitable process. Seems like we said, hey, you asked for it, so you're going to get it. But there were 2 more organizations that he did say gave up, basically. And if we don't ask other people to be at the table, I think that's going to be a problem when we look at it overall. I think the West Michigan Sports Commission does great work. I also believe that the driver, for them being one of the resources in our area to bring money back to the county, is great. But I just feel like it's not, I know it seems like there's a misstep somewhere, and I don't want us to take the heat for something that was a good intention, but now doesn't look that way.
Okay. Is there any other questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Chair. I tend to disagree with those of my colleagues who have spoken already on this. I think the administration's recommendation is sound on this. We had a really lengthy process to figure out how to spend $140-some million of the ARPA funding that we got. We're talking about a very, very small amount that's left. I just did back of the napkin math. It's about 0.25% of the overall funding is what we have left to kind of send out the door. I think that the logic that this is a county adjacent project, that we've invested quite heavily in this over the years, that there's going to be a pretty significant return on investment is good. I think the challenge in opening everything up to Josh Spencer's point is similar to what we had when we did the ARPA process on the front end. We had, I think, like $1 billion worth of requests for $150 million in funding, and that, as much as I am sensitive to the concern of us taking on additional criticism for that, I think if you do that and have to choose how to spend less than $500,000 over anybody that's going to come and ask for funding, it's going to be a much harder thing to work through and probably result in a lot more criticism and potentially mistrust. So I support the direction that we're looking to go here, and grateful to the work that went into it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments on this item? Did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that the conversation with one project happened this week, and the question was, a formal request wasn't made. It was just a discussion. So.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Is there any more questions or comments before?
If I may,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I'm just curious if it might be appropriate for us to consider postponing this item, depending on the support of the commissioners. I'm not making a motion right now, but I sort of wanted to have some consideration over that.
I'd like a little more time to discuss it personally.
Okay, well, I think I will make a motion to postpone this item to a date certain, which would be our next Finance Committee meeting. Does anybody have the date? I'm looking.
May 6th.
May 6th. So I move to postpone this item to May 6th.
Okay, supported by Commissioner McLeod. Is there any comments or questions on the postponement motion now?
Thank
Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to postpone to our next finance meeting, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The motion passes, so we will revisit this item at our May 6th meeting. That will take us to item 4D from our Health Department, the Nurse Family Partnership Program Personnel Request.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to add 2 full-time public health nurse positions and 1 part-time clerk 2 position. Approve an amendment to the Health Department's comprehensive agreement through the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Accept and appropriate $266,429 to the 2025 Health Fund budget and authorize the board chair or health officer to execute the amendment and approve extensions. The board chair or designee may also increase the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary. The Health Department has been awarded funding of $266,429 from the MDHHS to expand the Nurse Family Partnership Program. The NFP program is a national model that provides evidence-based home visiting services to first-time mothers and their babies with the goals of promoting a healthy full-term pregnancy, maximizing the health of the child, and promoting economic self-sufficiency. The public health nurses provide education, connect clients to resources, and provide support as their clients become first-time mothers. Many of these pregnancies are high risk and have multiple factors that make them vulnerable for poor birth outcomes. Research on outcomes demonstrates that the home visits by a nurse decrease the risk of a preterm birth, substance use during and after the pregnancy, and the risk of homelessness. The program also stresses the importance of completing an education and holding a steady job. And wouldn't you know it, I just flipped that thing right past. Okay. The existing NFP program employs 6 full-time public health nurse positions who each carry a caseload of 25 families. More referrals for the program are received than what the existing staff can handle. The additional funding will allow the Health Department to expand the program by adding 2 additional nurse positions and part-time clerical support. With this expansion, the NFP program can positively impact an additional 50 families of first-time mothers and their infants who might otherwise experience adverse outcomes. The cost of salary and fringe for the 2 full-time public health nurse positions for 8 months is $73,928 each. The cost of salary and fringe for the part-time clerk 2 positions for 8 months is $21,738. An additional $96,835 will be used to support technology, equipment, training supplies, client support, and indirect costs.
There's more on the second page.
Oh,
Did you want to finish it?
no, okay, sorry. Yeah. The grant period is February 1, 2025 to September 30, 2025. If funding is eliminated or decreased, the positions will be eliminated unless continuation funding is approved pursuant to the fiscal policy on grants, contracts, and donations.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Oliver King, supported by Commissioner Halsted. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion passes. That takes us to 4E, from Community Action, the Older Americans Act Outreach and Assistance Fiscal Year 25 Grant.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $44,482 in grant funds administered by the Area Agency on Aging of Western Michigan for the Older Americans Act Funded Outreach and Assistance Program to the 2025 Kent County Community Action Fund budget, contingent upon execution of a contract, and authorize the board chair or designee to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary. AAA of West Michigan made $55,518 available for Kent County Community Action to administer the Outreach and Assistance Program for older adults in FY 2025. These funds were appropriated by the Kent County Board of Commissioners on August 22, 2024, with Resolution 8/22/2494. AAA of West Michigan has made an additional $44,482 in funds available for Kent County Community Action to administer the Outreach and Assistance Program in FY 25 for a total of $100,000. The Outreach and Assistance Program, funded by the Older Americans Act, supports vulnerable older adults, especially those at risk of isolation, to improve their well-being and help them live independently. At KCAA, bilingual social workers assist older adults in accessing services and navigating care systems to enhance their quality of life. In FY 24, KCAA was able to serve 123 clients with 982 hours of assistance. It is anticipated that over 100 additional individuals will be served by this program in FY 2025, which amounts to over 800 hours of assistance to vulnerable older adults. The period of performance is October 1, 2024 through September 30, 2025. Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents as to form prior to signature.
There's a motion from Commissioner Sparks. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner McLeod. Any questions or comments on this item? Do you have a question?
No, I just, I love it.
Oh, okay. Seeing no further questions or comments, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion passes. We are on to 4F, from the Administrator's Office, the 2026 Capital Improvement Program.
Action requested. Approve the administrative CIP project proposal to be included in the county's 2026 budget. Summary, the 2026 CIP requests were reviewed and a recommendation was prepared by a staff committee including representation from facilities, IT, park, sheriff, and fiscal. During the March 27, 2025 CIP work session, the administrator's CIP proposal was reviewed in detail by the County Board of Commissioners. The proposal includes 27 projects at a total cost of $10,873,964. Financing for the CIP is proposed to be drawn from general fund support of $10,071,649 and $802,315 from other sources. The board CIP policy calls for a minimum equivalent of 0.0 mils be allocated to CIP budget annually. The general fund support for the 26 CIP proposal equates to the equivalent of 0.285 mils. With the concurrence of finance and physical resources, funding for these projects will be included in the 2026 budget scheduled for board approval on August 28, 2025.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner McLeod. Is there support? supported by Commissioner Halsted. Is there any questions or comments? Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Chair. I know there was some discussion in the work session, and I know from conversations we've had offline that there's been some further discussion about the security barricades for the sheriff's department. I just wondered, Al, if you might be able to give a quick update on that.
Sure.
For the edification of everybody else.
Yes, I did discuss that item with the sheriff, and the sheriff is fine if we hold approval of that till later in the budget cycle. Typically, we have more than enough funds left in the budget in overage, and we could pay for it out of strategic capital with a motion late in the fiscal year and then reimburse it from the budget overage. So she's comfortable with that. In addition to that, she's also discussed the potential of getting grant funding to pay for a portion of those. And so she and her staff will be working on that up until that time, so.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and appreciate the work that has gone into making this puzzle fit together, so thank you.
Is there any other questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion passes. We are on to item 4G from Community Action, the KCCA Water Affordability Grant.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $400,000 in grant funds from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services for the Water Affordability Program to the 2025 Kent County Community Action Fund budget, contingent upon execution of a contract, and to authorize the board chair or designee to execute the grant agreement, approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services made $400,000 available for Kent County Community Action to administer the Water Affordability Program in FY 2025. The Water Affordability Program funds will be used to restore residential water and/or wastewater service and to address outstanding balances on accounts. Each eligible household may receive up to $3,000 in assistance annually. KCAA anticipates providing support to approximately 200 households with an average assistance amount of $2,000 per household. The period of performance is March 1, 2025 through September 30, 2027. Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents as to form prior to signature.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Oliver King, supported by Commissioner Sparks. Are there any questions or comments? Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered, has the need for this service come down since the pandemic, or are you seeing as much need for this as was previously needed?
I think the numbers are still pretty high on need. We have people making decisions on whether they're going to put food on the table or pay their utilities. So we have a pretty significant need. I think we were just under 600 households when we kicked off another water assistance program last year. And in 2024, we closed out with almost 600 households just asking for water utility assistance. And in prior years, we were probably averaging 200 to 300. And so we're seeing that still number go up. The state came to us and said, hey, we've got additional funds. Other parts of the state aren't spending as fast. Would you be interested? We said, here's what we can project to do based on the number of calls and the number of demand that we're seeing right now.
Just a follow-up to that, so is this going to then get you to the 600 so that you can fully support that, or is it going to get you a little bit closer, I guess?
I think
where are you
that's,
gonna be?
I think, sorry to cut you off there, I think we're going to get it a little higher than that this coming year for 2025.
So more than 600? Oh, wow, okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item?
So of the homes that receive the assistance, are they homes that, is it like a one-time thing to bridge them over per year, or do you see a return every year of the same homes that require?
Well, we generally see some folks come back to us, but the max capacity we can spend on that household is 3,000. So if they don't spend that 3,000, they can come back, and we have the max amount we can spend for that household is 3,000. But normally, we have households that come to us for the first time, and then we have some households that come to us a couple of times for different things.
Did you have any additional questions, Commissioner Halsted? Okay, Commissioner Sparks.
Thank you, Chair. Hi. Do you know the average amount that you actually spend for each family when they first come the very first time?
Well, it depends. The number we estimated was 200 households with 400 grand, because we're seeing our averages are right now about a couple $1,000s. One water assistance program that we're currently running right now also does plumbing repairs. We're seeing a lot of folks with plumbing repair needs, and so their water bills are high. So we've been working a lot with the city of Grand Rapids to kind of identify families that we can try to help with that. And then, of course, working with our other municipalities to identify those households. But we are seeing high water bills right now. And especially those, if they're making decisions, they're putting that on the back burner and letting it build up.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The motion passes.
Thank you.
We are on to item 4H from the Parks and Recreation Grand River Greenway Grant from Downtown Grand Rapids Incorporated for Johnson Park improvements.
Action requested, approve an amendment to the subrecipient Grand River Greenway Grant Agreement with Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc., and accept and appropriate $500,000 to the FY 2025 CIP Fund, Johnson Park Trailhead Project Budget, and authorize the board chair or designee to execute the grant agreements and approve extensions, amendments, and increases to the grant appropriations not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary. DGRI was awarded $55 million through the Michigan Department of Natural Resources to support the development of a recreational greenway project connecting multiple regional, city, and community trail and park systems. Previously, through a subrecipient grant agreement, the county accepted and appropriated a $16 million contribution toward the completion of a non-motorized trail spanning Plainfield, Cannon, Ada, Cascade, and Lowell Townships, and a $3.5 million contribution toward the completion of a non-motorized bridge crossing over the Grand River near the Knapp Street crossing. DGRI has agreed to contribute an additional $500,000 toward the completion of trailhead improvements at Johnson Park. The Johnson Park Trailhead Improvement Project includes the rehabilitation and expansion of the existing parking lot, which has been completed, replacement of the existing restroom to a four-season ADA accessible restroom, additional shelter gathering spaces, replacement of a 20-year-old playground, and the development of a 6-mile adaptive mountain bike trail. The funding from DGRI will be used to complete the adaptive mountain bike trail portion of the project. The remaining project is funded through a combination of county ARPA funds and MDNR trust fund grant, which is pending, and private contributions. The funds must be obligated and spent before December 31 of 2026. Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents as to form.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Oliver King. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Sparks. Is there any questions or comments? Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a quick question. Just doing the math here, it looks like we've, of the $55 million that was granted to DGRI, we've been a subrecipient for 19 and a half to date, and then another 500 would put us at 20. I think that tracks. I just wanted to just understand what really just tertiary what we're doing, but what where the other 35 million that DGRI has been granted, who's going to be spending that? Is that I would assume that's other
There's a
locals.
whole number of projects,
Yeah.
different trail connections and things. So I saw Ben and Josh looking at each other. They're the most
Yeah.
intimately involved with the details. So.
Yeah, actually, before I joined the county, I helped DGRI inventory all the projects for this funding. So they went through a process of, I actually inventoried all the projects that were composed the Greenway, identified all the various leads, and then there was a subcommittee of downtown or Grand River, Inc., who made recommendations to the board, ultimately to the DGRI board. So they are many of them are trail related. They're making connections throughout the Greenway, both along the Greenway, like through the city, and also kind of branch off into the neighborhoods. And there's various projects. So like, the River's Edge along the amphitheaters is one. Grand Rapids Public Museum is another one. So there's various projects like that from various leads, but there's a lot of city projects and then our county projects in there. Yep.
That's helpful. And then I guess to kind of bring it back home to us, do we anticipate that we will be accepting any additional funding out of that pot of money?
We're letting them know that if any funding comes available, we would happily accept and use it for our trail project. But
Okay.
I think they anticipate that a lot of the projects are going to use the funding, but I guess we'll know more within the next 6 months or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Josh.
Were there any other questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The motion passes. And we are on to our final agenda item under item 4I from Parks and Recreation, Michigan Department of Natural Resources Urban and Forestry Inflation Reduction Grant.
Action requested. Recommend to the Board of Commissioners to accept and appropriate $56,885 from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Urban and Community Forestry Inflation Reduction Act grant program to the 2025 Special Projects Fund, and authorize the Board Chair or Parks Director to execute the grant agreement and approve extensions and amendments. The Board Chair or designee may also increase the grant appropriation not to exceed 15% of the original award. Summary: the Parks Department applied for and received the grant from the MDNR Resources Urban and Community Forestry Inflation Reduction Act. It's the IRA program. This program, which is funded through the USDA Forest Service's Urban and Community Forestry Program and the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, is designed to assist communities in disadvantaged or underserved areas for tree planting and forestry management programs. The grant funds will be utilized to carry out forest management activities in 3 parks: Millennium Park in the city of Grand Rapids, Palmer Park in the city of Wyoming, and Dwight Liddell Park in Plainfield Township. Activities to be undertaken include tree surveys and inventory, development of forest management plans, community education, and engagement in tree plantings. The grant performance period is October 1 of '24 through September 1 of '26. Corporate Counsel will review and approve all documents as due form.
Is there a motion for this item? Moved by Commissioner Sparks, supported by Commissioner Oliver King. Questions or comments? Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. So I think that this is a great grant to get and to move forward with. I guess my concern is that it is a federal pass-through grant. Or is there any concerns about these dollars being actually available when we are starting this activity and trying to move forward with it? I'm a little concerned, but I just wanted to see what the thought process was on this one.
Great, thank you. So we had that same concern. In fact, the DNR did as well. So this grant was actually awarded in 2024, and at one point they stopped the process completely, told us not to expend any funds, told us not to approve the grant until they got further direction. So last month we did get the direction from the DNR that we could move forward. Myself and Jesse Schulte, who is the person who will be administrating this program and this grant, we'll set out a process. So every time we spend $1, we'll make sure we get our reimbursement back right away to make sure that we're not, having these long periods. So we're definitely cognizant of that issue, but at least from the DNR standpoint, they said that they have worked through that and that they are doing reimbursements now.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The motion passes. We are on to miscellaneous. Is there any commissioner miscellaneous this morning? Seeing none, thank you all for being here, and we are adjourned.